Hey y'all, my name's Aaron, and I'm going to tell you how I met Cherry. So I met Cherry on a dating website called Filipino Cupid. And you're probably wondering why I decided to go on Filipino Cupid. But it's really because I wanted to try something different. I wanted to meet someone who had a different culture, who had different interests, but at the same time had much in common with me. So when I went on Filipino Cupid, I talked to various different girls of different ages, and then I met a girl named Cherry. She was 22 at the time. She's now 23, and I'm 27 years old. So a 4-year difference. She might argue and say that it's a 5-year difference because she's born in October and I'm born in September. So for an entire month, it's a 5-year difference, but it's actually 4 years. So Cherry and I were talking for about 5 months, I would say, before we actually met in person. I met her in November 2018, and I first flew to the Philippines in March 2019. And the first time I saw her, I'll be honest, I thought she was a little skinny, but she was still pretty. She was funny, a little quiet. I think she was a little nervous, honestly. I was a little nervous. I mean, I was across the world in an area that I didn't even really know. Didn't know how to speak Tagalog. I didn't know anyone. So for me, it was a big difference. And for her, I'm sure it was just different for me having her around. What I love about Cherry? A lot of things. There's actually, there was one specific time that I knew I truly loved her. And that was when we were walking back to her grandmother's house. And there was this lady in a wheelchair and she needed help getting back to her place. And immediately, Cherry went and helped her. And I was actually quite surprised about that because sometimes it doesn't exactly happen here where I live. And I knew from that she really is a caring person. She actually cares about people and will treat people with kindness and respect. And that's kind of important. I want someone who is patient, who's caring, and will be by my side all the time. So the first person to say, "I love you," was actually me. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little hesitant at first. I wasn't really sure what she would say, honestly. I do remember she was working. She had a lot of friends out next to her. And she video called me, and as we were saying goodbye, I thought, okay, well maybe I should say it. I'm not really sure. But then her friends in the background pressured her and pressured me. And so I decided to just go for it. And I actually said, "I love you." And she actually said it back. The Filipino culture is, in some ways, is similar, and in other ways different. One thing I did notice is the traffic. The traffic is really bad in Manila. I remember one time trying to travel back to the hotel I was going to, and it took hours. I sat in a jeepney for, it was how long, and it was super hot outside. Even Shari thought that I was going to pass out at that time. But Filipino culture houses a lot of different foods, and one particular food that I had was balut, and that was interesting. It was I had a hard time actually eating it. There's actually a video of me on this YouTube channel trying it out. Watch it. You'll see my reaction on that. Some cultural differences that I had to get used to in the Philippines were not being able to be part of most conversations. Considering most of them speak partial English, it made it difficult to actually follow along. One example is when I was with Cherry and her mother and the rest of her family, most of them would speak Tagalog. or Kapampangan. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And I couldn't follow along. I couldn't understand what they were saying, and so a lot of times I felt like I was left out. But I got used to it, and we did a little bit of finger motions, and we could figure out what we were talking about. Another thing that I found different that I had to adjust to is some words that they would use that are typically rude in the US. Like, for example, the word fat. They like to throw that word around, call people fat. I remember Cherry called one of her friends fat. And here in the US, that's a little offensive. If I went around the street calling someone fat, they would probably be very angry with me and want to punch me in the face, maybe. And I think the biggest difference that I had a hard time adjusting to was the bathrooms. Me being, an American, we typically use toilet paper. They don't use that. In the Philippines, they typically use a tabo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's basically a little bucket pan they use that they fill with water that they use to clean themselves, and that was very hard to get used to. I tried to avoid it as much as I could. There were a few incidences that I couldn't because their pipelines wouldn't be able to handle toilet paper. So that was quite of an adjustment for me to get used to with my current lifestyle here in the United States. The houses are definitely smaller, for sure, than from where I live, and there's typically no AC or air conditioning in them either. Fortunately, where I live, it's very hot. I live in Arizona, in the United States, and it's very dry, and every day in the summer is like you're in an oven, basically. I'm sure some people in the Philippines can actually relate to that. Another thing I noticed with the Philippines was the smell. Every time I would fly there, it would actually have a distinct smell to it. My clothes would smell like the Philippines. It was very humid and murky, which is not typically what I'm used to where I live.